Good evening, and welcome to Robs Newsroom, the only program bringing you news stories fresh off a string. First up, at last week's debate, Carly Fiorina claimed to watch footage of an aborted fetus, and that footage doesn't actually exist. And Miss Carly, if you can look straight into a camera and lie like that, well then you just might be a strong presidential candidate. In another interview, Carly Fiorina was quoted saying, "We are misleading young people when we tell them that marijuana is just like having a beer. It's not, and that's true. It's like way more fun. Because if you get a buzz off a single beer, you need to start drinking more regularly to improve your tolerance. No one likes hanging out with the guy, 'I had one beer, now I can't drive.'" Some counties in this country have banned the sale of alcohol. And what do you expect? Kids are going to go to church? They're going to listen to a sermon? Well, it turns out with today's technology, they'll just make crystal meth out of a bathtub. Sure, banning the sale of booze sounded like a good idea until people remembered just how boring life is. I'm actually surprised things didn't turn out worse. After all, this is how wars break out. People are standing around a barbecue, they're eating burgers, there's no beers. Next thing you know, this barbecue sucks! Kids are eating cooked rats, hacking away at each other's limbs with machetes. That's why we'd like to remind you, our viewers, to remain calm and drink more booze. Hell, even serve it to your kids. It's the surest, safest, guaranteed way to make sure that they don't end up doing crystal meth, which is why we would like to offer to you, our viewers, our newest product, Robs Anti-Meth Beer. It's your guilt-free solution to being a reckless alcoholic. I feel healthier already. This past week, Jeb Bush rolled out his new tax plan, and this tax plan includes regulating the regulators and creating a commission to review regulations from the perspective of the regulated. Jeb Bush is basically saying that we have a problem in this country of too much government, and his proposed solution to this problem is more government. This would be like if you had brain freeze from a Slurpee, brain freeze!
Don't worry, I got more ice.
Oh! This past week, Nike and Walmart pledged to go 100% renewable energy. They can afford to do this by harvesting the power of their underpaid workforce cycling at work. In a continuing effort to promote peace in the Middle East, Obama just pledged to sell over $1 billion worth of military equipment to the Saudi Arabians. To me, this doesn't sound peaceful. When I think of peace, I think of teddy bears. I think of small chocolate bars. I think of the items a pedophile would use to lure a small child into his van. What I don't think of is a group of people walking around with rocket launchers. If you give people toys like this, they're going to want to use them. When war breaks out in the region, Obama will be like, "I don't know what happened. I gave them those guns for peaceful purposes." Meanwhile, this past week, the moderate Syrian rebels that we armed with military equipment decided to give that equipment over to Al-Qaeda. Seems to me like Obama has about as much control over the region as a Walmart truck headed for Tracy Morgan. Next up, this past week, Taco Bell was forced to fire an employee after his hands-down pants picture was posted to the internet. Personally, I don't expect perfect cleanliness before eating the grossest thing on the planet. Chances are, whatever residue was on that man's hand was the only natural ingredient that ended up in that burrito. Then Taco Bell claimed that it took the time to retrain its entire staff, which included seminars on how to operate a deep fryer and add fake cheese to everything. They then reminded staff that they must carefully limit their intake of Taco Bell products, because much like a nuclear power plant employee in Japan, too much exposure will lead to your hair falling out and your intestines turning into a meatball. Unable to operate on a budget of $3.5 trillion, there's talk of a government shutdown. And on the eve of the government shutting down, 'tis the opportunity for us to reclaim our land. To unite for liberty and have a new dawn of prosperity. Where we loot what we can and we break what we see. Without government to stand in our way, we will charge forth and create a new world order!